Welcome into the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to talk about things that are going on at LSU. How many games will they win this season? We'll get into that later on. But first, I want to welcome in from Rocky Top Insider, Mr. Rick Butler. Rick, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, fellas. I'm doing great over here. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Thanks for bringing me on the show today.
I appreciate you making some time for us, and I want to talk a little bit about South Carolina and Tennessee. Let's start with what has Jeremy Pruitt brought to the program that's had the biggest impact so far?
Well, I think that might have flipped. I think it might have been Josh Heupel, but you know, when Heupel came into this program back in January, it was in a lot of turmoil. You could just tell from the Jeremy Pruitt era and everything that was going on with the athletic director leaving and everything like that. I think what Heupel has brought in, I will say this, on the field and off the field. On the field, it's just an offensive identity. You saw it last week against Missouri. Tennessee has really been able to come out and score points this year, which is something that they didn't do last year. And then off the field, I think there's just a little bit more of a family environment between the players and the coaching staff. And you just got to tell that at the end of the Jeremy Pruitt era, things just weren't entirely that good with all the losing that was going on. So a family aspect and an offensive identity, the two biggest things that he's brought to the table.
All right, well, can you update us on what may be coming from the NCAA due to that Pruitt era?
Yeah, you know, there's still an investigation going on right now at Tennessee. I think there are
realistically, though, but between you and I, how long does it take to investigate? I mean, the NCAA, I mean, we can, if we had maybe a third party that said, hey, you've got a month to figure this out, why in the world does this take so long? I mean, that's a great question. And frankly, Tennessee is aiding the investigation from their own program and from the athletic direction. So it's not even like, you know, Tennessee has any kind of obstacles up or they just aren't helping. They are fully cooperating with the investigation. So yeah, you know, I think there certainly has been maybe an indication that some of these answers could have potentially came out earlier, but also we've thought that this thing might drag out just because of the nature of the NCAA and the nature of some of the things that they do. Yeah, but have you heard anything on the ground about what could possibly happen? Maybe a best case, worst case?
You know, there's not much talk of that right now during the season. I think especially from inside the building, obviously from a coach's perspective, they're just worried about what's going on in the week. I think that, you know, we are getting a little bit of information trickle in, just things like costs and, you know, time spent in the investigation. But I got to tell you right now, that's a question that I'm a little bit stumped by just because there isn't too much conversation. It's a lot of behind closed door stuff.
I think that transparency should be key with any NCAA investigation, but it just seems like they get behind the door and then they'll just tell you what they're doing in a release on their website, and then they don't really take questions about it. It's kind of silly. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you. The NCAA has plenty of issues to work out, and transparency would be good on all fronts.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Hendon Hooker. He committed to the program like 11 days before Pruitt left and was kind of forgot about. And then in fall practice, a lot of it, the hype was around Milton, but Hooker's came in and has really blossomed with this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's kind of been one of the interesting things. I mean, you look back at Tennessee at the beginning of fall camp, they started out camp with 4 quarterbacks that were all in competition for the starting position. And now at the end of the day, it's Hendon Hooker who has come out and really begun to lead this team into the direction that they want to go. I still wonder about Joe Milton, what he maybe could have been with a little bit more time. I still think that nerves and a new environment got to him a little bit, but no doubt about it, Hendon Hooker has established himself as the guy for Tennessee. He can do it on the ground and he can do it through the air, although the air very much, the passing game comes from the success of the running game a little bit more. But no doubt about it, he's a great all-around quarterback who has been able to jump into a starting position with this Tennessee team and earn the respect of his teammates and coaches.
Do you think that Milton may hit the transfer portal?
You know, that's fascinating because the coaching staff has been so high on Milton for so long, even when he had struggles in the early season, even when he had the injury happen in week 2, I believe it was. I don't think so right now, just because, I mean, you even saw in the last game, Hendon Hooker had to leave due to an injury, and Joe Milton was that next guy in. I still think that, he could potentially see a possibility if an injury comes, if something else comes. I do think that's who Josh Heupel would go to as his number 2.
All right, let's talk a little bit. You mentioned the running game. Tyon Evans, he was really special. 15 carries for, a $150 something against Mizzou. Is he going to be the guy going forward that gets the bulk of the carries?
I definitely think so. I think Tyon Evans has certainly proved himself to be in a good position to where he can do a number of different things with the ball in his hands, including catching the ball out of the backfield, which we know that Josh Heupel really likes. Jabari Small is kind of the other tag team partner for Tyon Evans, if you will. Throw a little wrestling in there. He's kind of the other one that is the two-headed monster, but he did leave the last game due to injury. Heupel has not updated his injury too much so far through the week. But that's kind of the other guy that you would see taking a bulk of the carries when Tyon Evans is not. But I do think that Evans has proved himself the number one, the lead running back on this Tennessee team.
All right, the offensive line, they were dealing with some injuries going into that Mizzou game. Are they starting to get to a point where they may be getting a little more healthy?
Yep, starting to get a little bit more healthy. I think the return of Cooper Mays is huge for this team. He's a guy who missed a couple of the games there during the middle of the season, and Tennessee felt that. You had to move Jerome Carvin, who was the left guard, over to center. It was not like a two-deep situation where you just slide the next guy in. There were multiple guys moving around on the line, and then just other guys got nicked up and banged up in the middle of games. So to just have this line get back to its full strength, I think you saw the potential of where they want to go last week against Missouri, and that's what they can do with a full offensive line. Granted, against a very bad Missouri defense, but that's at least the type of offense that this team wants to play, a smash-mouth running team that can really set up the passing game through that.
All right, now the game against Mizzou, the people seem to forget Mizzou was a favorite in that game, a 3-point favorite at home.
Yeah.
Was that game more of the fact that Mizzou is terrible, or are the Vols starting to figure it out a little bit?
So I think there's truth to both things you're saying. I know I know that's a little bit of a cop out to the answer, but I do think that there's a little bit of truth there. I think we really established that Missouri's defense is horrendous. I mean, they fired their defensive line coach after the game. I think that shows you the behind the scenes trouble they're having. Maybe only Vanderbilt is the team that they're going to be able to stop on defense. But I also think that this was Tennessee's coming out party to an extent. I think, as the players said this week, this was the first game where they put their whole game plan together for 4 quarters long, and you saw what they were able to do, especially at the beginning of the game. This is a Tennessee team that desperately wants to get on the scoreboard first, at least in a big way, maybe if they defer to the second half. But regardless, I think it was, yes, Missouri's defense is not good, but I do think that for the first time this season, that is what Tennessee's offense wanted to do. And I think they're starting to figure it out a little bit more as they go on, and as Hendon Hooker settles in to being the surefire number 1 quarterback.
Defensively for the Vols, I watched the Pitt game, and I watched Kenny Pickett move the ball up and down the field. Is the defense getting to a point where they may be able to start figuring some stuff out?
I would say that the defense has been overall better than expected at the beginning of the season. And that's just kind of to say that you knew that Tennessee's offense was going to get a major overhaul just because of Josh Heupel and who he had coming in. But I think that a lot of people around Tennessee have been impressed with what they've been able to do. You have Tim Banks come over. He's been very efficient as a defensive coordinator so far. And, of course, there has been stumbling moments. You're right. Pittsburgh was able to light Tennessee up for a good amount of yards. Obviously, Florida is able to continue their great rushing ability against Tennessee. But I do think that a lot of people expected this Tennessee defense to be a lot worse than it has. And in reality, they've been pretty good so far. The competition is going to ramp up starting this week, but no doubt about it, I think they have been a pleasant surprise for the Tennessee defense. Tim Banks gets a lot of that credit.
A question from a gentleman online. He says, where does Harrison Bailey figure into the current and future quarterback conversation in Knoxville?
Oh, my goodness. That is a lot of people's question. It has been for 9 weeks now of this whole football season with the camp. But I think it really just shows that Harrison Bailey, for whatever reason, I think there's a couple of variables that factor in, but I think he just is the third string quarterback on the roster. This is the second staff that has not jumped the gun to get Harrison Bailey in the game. And again, even with Joe Milton's struggles, you see Josh Heupel going back to Milton when Hendon Hooker got hurt last week. I think that Harrison Bailey is a good quarterback. We've heard a little bit that, some of Hendon Hooker, Joe Milton might just be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Might just be a little bit more vocal, a little bit more of a vocal leader, can really rally the troops a little bit better than maybe Harrison Bailey can. I don't think there's a lot of opportunities for him to get in on the season now that these first couple of games are away. But certainly I do believe that he is a talented quarterback on the roster. I just don't know what his future at Tennessee looks like right now. I don't think it looks great.
One more question from Megan online. He wants to know where the roster sits after all of the offseason transfers.
Well, that's a great question. And, I guess I don't exactly know where the question's going, so I'll take it in this direction. Tennessee had the most transfers in Division I football, or at least right up there at the top out of any team. And so they lost a lot. But offensive coordinator Alex Golesh talked about it a little bit on Tuesday. The guys that are here and the guys that have come into the program are the guys that are fully bought in and who want to be here. Kind of goes back to my beginning point about the family atmosphere. You can tell that these guys, the ones who have walked through the turmoil and the muddy waters of the previous coaching staff, to the guys who just got here with the arrival of Coach Heupel, everyone's buying into the process from what you can tell from what we are hearing and what we are seeing. And I just think that's a big difference in between this roster compared to others in the past. And Tennessee is going to keep rebuilding the roster with guys that match Coach Heupel's style of offense. So I think it is going in the right direction because of that atmosphere.
Rick Butler from Rocky Top Insider joining us here on the Rundown this afternoon. You can follow him on Twitter at Rick_Butler. And of course, read his content at RockyTopInsider.com. How do you think that, what do you think would be an A1 set there for Tennessee coming into this game with South Carolina? What exactly do they need to do to pick up the win over the Gamecocks?
I think that Tennessee needs to do pretty much exactly what they showed against Missouri, and the thing that really allowed that game to be opened up, and that was establish the run game early. Tennessee put up 28 points in that first quarter. I don't know if that can happen again. That 4 touchdowns was quite a bit for one quarter, but what they were able to do through that is establish the run game, basically show Missouri that, hey, you might be able to do things on offense, but we are going to control the pace of this game. We are going to do it at our own speed, at our own tempo. I think that's a big key for Tennessee, controlling the tempo of the game, going the speed that they want to go. And then on defense, you can say this for both teams, but turnovers. Tennessee won the turnover battle against Missouri as well, had a big interception that took them down to the 1-yard line, punched it in one play later. So those kind of plays are always so game-changing in the sport of college football. I think for Tennessee's defense, it needs to be continuing to be aggressive with whatever kind of offense South Carolina brings out on Saturday. Try to force those turnovers, try to get the ball back to the offense.
All right, and let me ask you this. How does the fan base feel about this game as far as where Tennessee is and just the program in general with the new coaching staff that's there?
Sure. I think that a lot of Tennessee fans looked at this schedule, and certainly us in the media as well. We looked at the Tennessee schedule, and we saw that there was a back-to-back stretch where Tennessee had Missouri and South Carolina. And I think a lot of these other games you can kind of factor into a win or a loss, for the most part, except for those 2 games. I think those were big kind of toss-up games on this Tennessee schedule. So for Tennessee, winning this game against South Carolina would be huge, and it puts them in a direction to where they can finish Josh Heupel's inaugural season 500 or better. And I think that's a big part. The fans really have rallied behind the team after last week's big game. They kind of dropped off a little bit after the Florida beatdown, but I think they're really excited for this game on Saturday. I don't know if y'all have seen it, but Tennessee is unveiling brand new all-black uniforms for the game on Saturday.
I read that earlier on your site, and I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
When I see something like that, though, it's like I think why not unveil that for, I don't know, a bigger opponent, but I guess they think this game is special enough to roll out that special uniform.
Well, I think their next opportunity would be next week, a night game when Ole Miss comes to town, Lane Kiffin's return. A lot of people are clamoring for the debut to be then, but also, the last time that Tennessee wore black uniforms was in 2009 against South Carolina, and Lane Kiffin was the coach of Tennessee. So there's a couple of factors that go in there. I'm sure they don't want Lane maybe trying to steal a little bit of the credit. He might do that if you do it against Ole Miss, but the people are really excited about these uniforms here. So who knows? That might juice up the fans a little bit.
All right, man. Hey, Rick Butler joining us from Rocky Top Insider. And of course, they can find your work at rockytopinsider.com, right?
Yes, sir. That's exactly where it's at.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you joining us here on the Rundown, talking a little Tennessee and South Carolina. You have a great week, sir.
Hey, man. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to listening to your show coming up today, and down to chat some college football anytime. Thanks again.
All right, there you go. Thanks a lot, man. All right, Rick Butler joining us here on the program, giving us kind of an inside look there at Tennessee. The Vol fans, I can tell you just by some of the stuff on social media, they are on fire about these black uniforms. I just kind of laugh at that kind of stuff. One of the things Shane Beamer did earlier in the season that was really great was like, look, this is what we're wearing. We're not going to go into this, have this every week. What are you guys wearing? What's the battle armor for this weekend? Especially when you're out there and you're getting hammered. Not that that's going to happen, but I just like the idea of consistency is key. The alternate uniforms just, I don't really get all that. All right. We're going to take some calls at 803-978-1832. Thanks to Rick Butler for joining us here as we preview South Carolina and Tennessee. If you want to get your thoughts in on that, I'll take your calls. 803-978-1832. More of the Rundown in just a moment on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I don't get the whole uniform thing, y'all. I get okay. Yeah, I don't know how addressing Brandon's question there. I don't know how healthy Gilmore is. I mean, the Patriots are, I think they're giving up, but who knows? I mean, he was NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 2 seasons ago, but 2 seasons in the NFL is a long time. Hadn't played this year, so there's that. I don't agree with the whole let's have a blackout. I think that's what Kentucky's doing this weekend. Let's have a blackout. Really? We're going to have a blackout. God. What a mess. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Apparently the uniforms, they're right there with some folks. Jimmy online says uniforms are special for cheerleaders. Thank you for contributing to the program, sir. Also, I was talking with some of the folks in the chat room during the break. I don't get the whole thing with let's have a blackout. I think they're doing that at Kentucky this weekend. I think back to what was it, like 2003, South Carolina playing Florida. Or it may have been before that. I don't remember. It was Lou Holtz and Steve Spurrier. South Carolina had a good team, and it was for the SEC East title. And South Carolina had the blackout, and Spurrier was talking at the end of the game about, yeah, you could see the ball better with all the black in the stadium. I just never get to a point where I see where having a blackout is something that you want to do. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Brandon online says South Carolina's defense is much better than the offense. Top 25 in total defense, 117 in offense after 5 games. Yes, sir. I agree with you on that. Here's the thing with that, though. I think that South Carolina, if you look at their SEC games that they've had so far, that if you just look at it, I think that they're giving up over 5 yards a carry in SEC play, I think is what I read. But of course, it's such a small portion of the schedule anyway. I don't really know. I think South Carolina's defense is pretty good. I think they're much better than Mizzou's. Mizzou's defense those guys had some quit in them. If you watch that game, they're down 17, and they had an opportunity to try to get back, and the defense just stopped caring. 803-978-1832 out of the phones we go. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, what's up?
No Clemson game this weekend, but we're heading to Knoxville.
You're going to go to Knoxville and watch South Carolina and Tennessee.
We're going to Knoxville to watch Tennessee beat South Carolina to sleep.
So you're confident in Tennessee and the fact that and when I look at Tennessee and who they've played, to be fair, they haven't really played anybody. I mean, I don't
Pitt pretty good.
Yeah, and Pitt beat them in their own house.
Pitt did because they turned the ball over and they had the other quarterback in. I think they found something on offense now.
Well, Hendon Hooker really has. He's had 2 straight games without turnovers. He turned the ball over against Pitt. He did have a turnover in the Tennessee Tech game, but 2 straight games without turning over the ball. And that's obviously very important. But this South Carolina defense, they've been in the plus column against every team they've played this year, including the best team in the country right now, the Georgia Bulldogs. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, but I still think Tennessee's offense is going to put up the points on the Gamecocks this week. I just don't think they can get the pressure on him.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see how that works out. I think it's cool you're going up to Knoxville to watch the game. Why not?
Well, we're gonna make the trek because why not? Got open week, got to do something.
Why am I never invited to these tailgates? What's up with that?
Hey man, anytime you want to come, load up with us and go.
We might do that.
But we're going to try to go up to see the Syracuse game on Friday night. We're going to fly up there for that, but be something different. I've never been to Syracuse before, and get to see the dome.
It's a basketball stadium that parades around as a football stadium in the early fall. That's what it is. Did you happen to catch the Montana East Washington game? Is that the game where
that's the red field?
Yeah, is that the game where? No, I got the game where the guy threw his clipboard into the stand and hurt somebody. We're going to talk about that later, but yeah, I know they've got a red field up there. You can't grow any grass.
It's hard to
there,
watch.
So, yeah, but you can't.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah, I don't get into the whole plastic fields and all that, but
yeah, there's so many teams that have it now, though. Almost everybody's going to it now. Fake grass, grow some. I can't. Notre Dame. I couldn't believe it. Notre Dame actually didn't have grass.
Yeah.
Turf field.
So when you go to watch Tennessee and South Carolina, you're not a Tennessee fan. You're not a South Carolina fan. What do you wear? Do you just wear just a polo shirt and
we're going to wear some Clemson Tiger gear up there.
So you're going to
wear what the real orange looks like. We're going to be proud of it.
You're going to wear your Clemson stuff out there. That's funny. right.
Wearing Clemson stuff up there. Yep.
All right. Well, I hope you guys have a safe trip, man. And as always, I appreciate you calling the show.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right, there you go. So there is a Clemson fan that is heading to watch Tennessee and South Carolina. I truly have nothing. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. Tennessee seems to have found some stuff there with Hendon Hooker at quarterback. The young man, Tyon Evans, had a huge game against Mizzou. And, Tennessee's favored by 10 points in this matchup? I don't know if that's close or not, but we shall see. Let's go back out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'd like to make a quick comment about Tennessee's uniform, and I'll get off here.
Sure.
Now, that's a multi-purpose uniform. You can hunt in it on Friday, play football in it on Saturday, and go back to jail in it on Sunday. That is getting a bang for your buck, and I'm all for it. Thank you.
I don't think they look like jail uniforms. The all black doesn't look like a jail uniform, but that's valid. I don't get the whole let's have the alternate uniforms thing. That's just, I guess if it motivates the young men to play a little harder, okay. I respect what Shane Beamer said. This is what we're wearing. Start a tradition with that. Do you see the Alabamas of the world and insert your top team here? It's tradition. You have your set stuff that you wear, and that's it. I think that's kind of the best way to go. Maybe I'm just getting old. We'll have to see. All right, 803-978-1832. He says you can wear that uniform to go to jail on Sunday after you go hunting on Friday and then go to the game on Saturday. Multi-purpose. That's what we got right now. So there you go. 803-978-1832. Dr. Vols says, doesn't Clemson wear all purple? Yes, but it is a tradition on Military Appreciation Day. A little bit different there. Let's go back out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Rob, I'm like you. I could not care any less about uniforms, but I will say this. Anything will be an improvement over Tennessee's regular uniforms.
Yeah,
black, green, purple, whatever.
Well, but, back to the other side of it, though, you being a Georgia guy, the classic Georgia uniform with, the red helmet and the black G and all that. I mean, that's just classic. Why not just have that? And if you don't have that for a tradition, start a tradition. This is what we're wearing, and then let it build,
Yeah, and again, I'm not all that big on uniforms, but yeah, just pick one and stick with it, man.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Hey, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
As you look at the slate of games on Saturday, is there anything that's kind of off the radar that you're really looking forward to, or you think might be a sneaky good game?
Well, I don't want to cater to you being a Georgia fan, but I've got something from a Fox Sports analyst who says he kind of likes Auburn this weekend, which kind of makes me want to watch that game because playing down there at Auburn, I don't really know what Auburn has. I know what Georgia has, but Auburn's been all over the place. So, yeah, that's kind of one of those sneaky games I want to watch. And then the matchup with the Big Ten matchup with Penn State and Iowa, that's a marquee matchup, but I'm really looking forward to those two games.
Yeah, I could see why the Georgia-Auburn game, it feels like one of those times that Stetson finally went to bed for good here.
Well, let me make sure that I put this out there because I catch heat from Georgia folks a lot. I think that Georgia is a better team than Auburn. I think that Georgia should win the game by 10 to 14 points, but Auburn is sneaky with what they've got. They almost won at Penn State. Maybe Harson's figured something out. I don't know. We'll see.
I got you. Hey, that's all I got for you. 43-18, Rob.
You have a great day, man. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to head back out to the phones in a moment, but first we'll take a quick break. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. I think that was something with the phone. I think we're good now. I hit the wrong button on the phone, so should be. Are you hearing me fine now? Is it good? It should be better now, I would think. Our phone system, they're working on getting a new one up here. We'll see how that works out. Appreciate you guys letting me know that. Speaker got wet. That's funny. Yeah, I got the way that engineering is now, we used to have an engineer in the building, but it's like now anything that breaks, you have to put in a trouble ticket and then they send someone here to fix it. It's insane. I'll be working on Saturday morning doing our best Gamecock coverage. So I don't know. We'll have to see what comes up with. I'm actually drinking. This is it's a Zoa. Oh, up there. Zoa Wild Orange Zero Sugar Energy Drink. So there you go with that. I should have stock in that stuff because I buy cases of it at actually a vitamin shop just sent it to the house. I'm probably going to go to Callaway's in West Columbia, and I'll have lunch there on Saturday and watch the game. I only have one team, Caden. One team. That's it. That looks. Does it really look? It's like there we go. I don't know if that looks pagan or not. It's supposed to be like it's the Rocks energy drink. That's how I got started on it. Yes, I don't have other teams that I like, sir. Yeah, Clemson doesn't play this weekend. I think there are people like I've got a friend that's like an LSU fan, and then he's also like a Louisiana Lafayette fan. And how do you cheer for two teams? I can't do all that. Well, welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Megan asked me earlier about games that I'm looking kind of forward to. I mentioned the Georgia-Auburn game simply because, Georgia's a 14 and a half point favorite. On paper, that makes sense. But RJ Young from Fox Sports did an interview with WJOX in Alabama, down there in the land of Auburn and everything else. And he says, as much as I dog Auburn, they're a good football team. Matter of fact, up and down the SEC West, they're really good. And in the SEC East, you got three teams that I think are pretty decent, if not good. So anytime I think you go on the road, you're going to have a hard time this year because fans have proven, hey, we matter here. We're going to make it hard to hear. Think about Sanford last week when Arkansas went up to Georgia and how many false start penalties they had on that offensive line for Arkansas. He says, that's why I believe if Auburn can have a similar atmosphere this week, he says they've got a shot. I'm not buying all that. I don't think, look, did the crowd get to Arkansas with the false starts? Yes. Yes, I will definitely buy that. But I don't think the crowd matters that much when it comes to the talent that Georgia has. I think you play this in a parking lot, Georgia wins by 14 points. Neutral site, same thing. The reality is that for Auburn to win this game, we don't know how healthy JT Daniels is. So we have to go into it thinking that Stetson Bennett's going to be the quarterback. He's going to have to throw the ball more than 11 times. And they're going to have to contain Bo Nix, meaning make Bo Nix stand in the pocket. I think that's important too. Or you could just have 99 just knock him into next month like he does everybody else. That's if I'm the defensive coordinator for Georgia, when you've got 99 on your team, yeah, that's kind of the way to go. But if Bo Nix can run around and do some of the stuff like he did at LSU, where the one play where he sprinted basically from sideline to sideline and then threw a dart into the end zone, I mean, that can cause some problems. And of course, Georgia can't be turning over the ball, and that's just standard football 101. But for Auburn to win, they're going to have to turn Georgia over, and Bo Nix is going to have a good game. We haven't heard much about the running back, Tank Bigsby. He's a guy that can help control the game, but he hasn't had like the best of season. I don't even know if he's really how much he's playing, to be honest with you. So we'll see how that works out for them, but that's probably the matchup there. And of course, RJ Young kind of agrees and says that the crowd may have something to do with it. They're going to be on fire down there at Auburn. Not saying they're not. Megan says Bo Nix will have to run around, and that's fair too, but you have to keep him from making plays when he runs around. Big difference there. You can run around, but you have to keep him from making plays when he's running around, which Georgia has the personnel to do that. So, but I don't think the crowd's going to have that much of a factor. I really, really don't. 803-978-1832 for South Carolina to win over Tennessee. Tennessee has outscored opponents 73-15 in the first quarter. Yeah, that's a heck of a stat. Now, a lot of that can be chalked up to they got 28 against Mizzou, and Mizzou is terrible. But the reality is that that's what Josh Heupel wants to do. He wants to jump out on you early and then ride the running game to kind of protect that defense that's still kind of building a little bit. So for South Carolina to win, they're going to have to withstand whatever early siege that Tennessee throws at them and make it a game at the half. And then South Carolina can hopefully pull away for them and do some stuff on offense and try to control the tempo and keep Hendon Hooker and Tyon Evans and those guys off the field. That's kind of the way that South Carolina is going to have to win that game with Tennessee. But Tennessee sprints out early. It's going to be tough for the Gamecocks to rally. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Blind Squirrel says, will somebody please ask Stetson Bennett to not throw into coverage? I think that's Stetson Bennett. He seems like he has in his head that he can make every throw. I mean, and that's good for some quarterbacks, but he thinks he can make every throw. When he goes out there, he thinks he's the absolute man. I admire that. I guess it's bravado, I guess is the term, but he does have some issues with turning the ball over. So got to avoid that against Auburn. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on The Rundown. We'll look at LSU when we come back. And, man, they're already talking like they're laying out who's going to replace Ed Orgeron like they've already given up on the season. I mean, I hate to break it to them, but you have one conference loss. You can rally the troops. It's not completely over. But LSU fans are already throwing him out the door and let's go get Lane Kiffin. How many games can LSU win this season when you realistically look at their schedule? We'll talk about that when we come back here on The Rundown. Don't forget, podcast is up at about 5:00 today. If you missed the interview with our guest earlier, that's from the Rocky Top Insider, Mr. Rick Butler, breaking down South Carolina and Tennessee. It'll be up at 5:00. You can check it out then. More of The Rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Uh-oh, Hollywood's on the line. That's what happened. I don't know, man. He said he was going. I don't know. I mean, it's not out of the realm that South Carolina wins. Hey, I'm still debating on my picks. By the way, new Rob and Kale show tonight. Get Jackpot's pick on this game. I think Jackpot is, and I can't speak for him. I know he's in the chat room. I venture to say Jackpot is going to pick South Carolina to win. Just saying that's what's going to happen. I don't know yet, Fireball. I'm not feeling I'm not very confident in the South Carolina offense. The South Carolina defense is But then again, I think the 10-point line has more to do with the fact that Tennessee just mouth pumped Mizzou. So, and the game's at home, high noon start. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the show. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, let me ask you something.
What you got, man?
JR, Jonathan Reynolds, what is he up to these days?
Jonathan Reynolds, since you're asking, is actually saving souls. We had him on the show, what was it, a week or two ago, and he was giving us some insight on NC State. He is a noted NC State apologist, and he laughed his butt off as NC State beat up on Clemson. So, but he's actually literally saving souls.
Good for him. Because I know me and Daddy talk Jonathan all the time. He used to be on that 3 to 6. Him and Corey Miller.
Yeah, him and Corey Miller did a show here for a while, but he's saving souls. One of my favorite people that worked here at iHeart. So, really good guy.
Oh yeah, no doubt. He's a good guy. Mm-hmm. He is a great guy.
All right. So, anyway, all right. What you got for the show today, buddy?
It's Georgia turn the ball over against Auburn, they lose. I don't care what kind of defense they got. If they turn that ball over with that half quarterback they got in there, only can throw 9 passes, they lose.
Well, I don't think that's that far-fetched to say if he throws 9 passes and they turn the ball over.
I mean, that's all he throw a game, 9 passes. He got to throw more than 9 passes too.
Yeah. I mean, he has to throw the ball more than that, but maybe JT Daniels will be ready to play. I don't know.
So, he's just a Red Cross truck. That's all he is. He stay hurt all the time. I think he's weak.
Well, I don't know if he's weak or not, but he just seems to stay injured. It seems like he does spend a lot of time in the training room. So there's that. Doubt. Yeah. All right. Well, Florida's got Vanderbilt this weekend. I mean, how long are your starters going to play? Vanderbilt is terrible. They are really terrible. Bad. I mean, really, really bad.
My backup quarterback is just as good as the first string quarterback, for as I'm concerned.
Okay.
I would like to see more of him this weekend.
Well, you might get somebody from the band playing because Vanderbilt's terrible. Serious, they are really bad.
We know. About like Clemson.
Just about. Till Clemson does something, You're probably right.
All right.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for calling the show. There's that. Let's look at LSU really quick. I said I was going to mention them before we got off the show today. You know, you've got a setup where LSU they play at Kentucky, and then they're with Florida, and then they've got Ole Miss, and then at Alabama, home game with Arkansas, home game with Louisiana Monroe, home game with Texas A&M. How many games can they win? I don't think they're going to be favored at Alabama, obviously. I don't think Arkansas is really great. I'm not completely sold on Florida. Wes online says that the Gamecocks don't have a snowball's chance in hell this weekend. Thank you for that, Wes. We'll see. But with LSU's schedule and what they've got left, I mean, at Kentucky, remember, Kentucky's doing the blackout. They mean business up there at Kroger Field. We're going to have a blackout. Wow, that's just really sad. Anyway, after that, they've got Florida, Ole Miss, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana Monroe, Texas A&M. I think that Louisiana Monroe's a win. Arkansas might be a win. We'll go from there. They may end up with what, 6, 7, 8 wins? I don't know. Has Ed Orgeron lost that team? Because these guys are on Twitter. They see it. They see all that stuff. They know what's out there. But what's going on in the locker room? Are they still behind Ed Orgeron? Do they still see the guy from 2019 that's got, telling everybody, hey, we're going to out-recruit Alabama and blank this and blank that and blank this and blank that? We'll see. We'll see if he's lost them or not. And this weekend at Kentucky, if there's ever been a team that's had their back against the wall, right now it is this LSU team. And there's probably a set of folks that are looking at Kentucky and saying, you know what? Maybe Kentucky could be pretty good. Maybe they could be. When you look at the rest of Kentucky's schedule the rest of the way, you can make an argument that I'm not going to sit here and say that Kentucky is outstanding, but they're 5-0 right now. They've got LSU this weekend and then Georgia that, but after those games, they should be favored, I would think, or at least, within a field goal of at Mississippi State, home for Tennessee, at Vanderbilt, New Mexico State, and Louisville. So I don't know, man. With that LSU game this weekend, I don't even know which way to float with that one. They are doing the blackout, though. Maybe that'll make a huge difference. I wonder who's going to look more stupid on Saturday. Kentucky with the blackout or Tennessee with the black uniforms, which a caller earlier said is good for 3 things. And he may be right. Hunting on Friday, the game on Saturday, and going back to jail on Sunday. That's really funny. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call. If you would like to join us here on the rundown, Kentucky No Sucky on the line says Kentucky has loaded all our hard games in a row. Yeah. I mean, Kentucky is a 1-point favorite at home this weekend against LSU. I don't know how the Georgia game is going to work out after that. But, the rest of the schedule after that, though, you would think that Kentucky would be favored. They're definitely a team that, I have to moonwalk back what I said earlier this season where I said that I thought Mizzou was going to be there. Boy, they made me look silly. Absolutely silly. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Justin online says Alabama seems to get better and better after that Florida game, in his opinion. Well, yeah, that's kind of the thing with Alabama. You got to catch them early. If you don't, you may not catch them at all. They're still a machine, though. They really are. What the SEC championship game should be with Alabama and Georgia. I really want to see that Alabama offense against that Georgia defense. I think that the Georgia offense and the Alabama defense might be on par with each other, but that having 2-star units with Georgia, the defense there, and the Alabama offense, that'll be interesting to watch. All right. Tomorrow on the program, we're going to working on a couple of different guests. We don't want to blow them out before they get over here, though. But follow me on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. As soon as I get them confirmed, we will have them there. Podcast for the show is up at about 5:00 today. You can listen whenever you want. Very simple. Download the iHeartRadio app or however you get your favorite podcasts, and you can check out the podcast for the show. It's right there for you. Also, don't forget my buddy Lawton Swan. He is up next with Clemson Sports Talk. He is the czar of Clemson Sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Follow him on Twitter at Clemson Sports and get you some info on Clemson and just about everybody else. We appreciate Lawton doing his show here in the afternoon. Oh, man. On Twitter, I'm at Rob Sounds Good. I was tweeting last night a little bit about the stuff with the Yankees and Red Sox game. I kind of wanted both teams to lose because I guess I'm a hater. I don't like how they spend so much money and my Braves can't. NL wild card tonight, Dodgers and Cardinals. I'll be watching some of that game. See if the Cardinals can knock off the Dodgers. That would be some cool stuff there. And, of course, the Braves have first pitch on Friday with the Milwaukee Brewers is at like 4:30 in the afternoon. So we will do the show on Friday, and then I'm going into a hole to watch the Braves game. That's how that works. All right, I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, guys, new Rob and Kale show tonight. We will have our pick'ems. So look forward to seeing you guys tonight. I'm still hung up on the Kentucky game and which way I'm going to go with South Carolina and Tennessee. So I'm going to do some research. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you tomorrow, or actually tonight, 9:30.